Shalom,
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 shalom.
shalom. Welcome back. Oh, wait, I didn't put this back in position. I'm gonna pretend that I've messed around with that enough for it to be good. Okay, welcome back, listeners, bookworms. You know the drill. It's a really big one. It's one of the ones they used to bore the tunnel between France and England. That's the drill. You're here because you want to hear either me read the chapters, us discuss the chapters, or potentially both. Some of you actually want both. It's nice. Um, a reminder, a gentle reminder that we're only doing this until we get a cease and
December
desist. Oh,
1st?
yeah, no, until December
Or that.
or
Or
that.
that. Yeah.
And the legitimate audiobook recordings are available at reactormag.com, Wind and Truth excerpts. They have them on each chapter at the bottom. I believe somebody commented saying chapters 14 and 15 may have been corrupted at some point, so they came and listened to ours and fell in love. So
Nice.
if this is
Welcome.
your, yeah, definitely welcome. Our last video got a ton of comments. Thank you guys. I really love engaging with you. I try to comment back or heart every one because you all make life worth living. And something about dopamine. I'm gonna move away
I
from.
went I went I went back to the last video to read all the comments and there was like too many to read. I was like, oh wow, okay.
It's a lot. It is a lot.
Great.
Shout
That's
out
great.
to Haxorus. Haxorus always comes in with some really solid theories, explanations, clarifications. I don't know who you are, but I hope you're going to Dragonsteel, and I hope you have a particular set of skills that help you fight the boss. I hope you come and say hi, and you show up in a Haxorus cosplay from Pokemon, and
Yes.
especially the shiny one from Black and White in the national park. This is going too far. You're awesome. Somebody commented on our chapter 1 and 2 reading to ask where they can go read the chapters for themselves. And I almost commented back, why would I tell you that when you could watch our videos? But instead, I told them where to get it because that's what they
Good.
asked for.
We never gatekeep.
We don't. We don't gatekeep. We,
Although I will, I think we mentioned it, but like the using SoundCloud for the chapters, I think is a weird move.
I think it's weird.
It's
I
so
also,
hard to navigate.
I think it's intentional. I think it might be an intentional limiting factor. They might be. Maybe. We do have, oh, wait, with me right now, on screen, Trevor, aka
Hey,
the Sandbox.
what's
I
up?
I've had the pleasure of getting some insight on his upcoming videos, and they're going to be bangers. If you have not subscribed to his channel, it is in the doobly-doo down there. If you're on YouTube, if you're listening to this, it is in the show notes. So go, well, type in his at. I don't think I have the link to your YouTube channel in the show notes, but it doesn't matter. Whatever. Go follow his channel. Totally worth it. Subscribes are free.
Appreciate
His
it.
content is awesome. We have some Sanderson news. That Sanderson news is Words of Radiance continue shipping. They finished all the signed and numbered Words of Radiance
Let's
Leatherbounds.
go.
So they're moving on to the unsigned.
Did you get yours?
No, uh I got some add-ons and I got the secret Project 5. I did not purchase the leatherbound.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. Um
I'm
so
shocked by that, but okay.
I um this is not me being preachy.
No.
I uh am at odds with certain industries, and so
Hmm.
I choose not to consume leather products. Um
Interesting.
If they made premium editions of the books that were not leather, I would. Like the secret projects, no problem. Boom,
Hmm.
got them. But I choose how my money is spent, and how I support
Yeah,
industries and stuff. So, uh,
absolutely.
very tempted actually with this one because I have asked my wife. I've brought not asked my wife. I've brought it up and she's like, "You can get the leather bounds if you want." Um, I'm like, "Well, first that's like $1,200 for all of them.
It's a lot.
That is a lot." Or over time, that's not that much. Um, but still, I am content with the current state of my sander shelf. Uh, so yeah, that's why I chose not to. But I'd like to point out I have no problem with people who buy them. I just want to say that I'm not forcing views here. I'm just explaining for me,
Yeah,
just doing
absolutely.
my own thing. Yeah, I think they are
I
beautiful and well done.
I was look I was looking it up because I thought I remembered them saying that it's not like officially leather, but I was trying to find it, but I couldn't.
If you find out that they're not officially leather, my bank account is going to be empty tomorrow.
Well, I'll just not speak on it then.
Yeah, that's fair. No, it won't actually be empty. It won't actually. If it, I just feel like they wouldn't call them leather bounds if they
See,
weren't actually.
no, according to some Reddit post I found, I don't know, but this is kind of what I remember is it's like 20% leather and then it has other binders in there. But it's not like pure leather. I'm sorry if I just broke your mind and your wallet, but
I
um
am. I. You know what? Am I willing to give up 20% of my ethics? 20%'s not
isn't that a weird, philosophical question? Like,
right
where do I draw the line? Is it 100% or is it any percent?
because
Yeah.
I eat fish. Like this is
We should ask Yasna.
that would be a great if
In, in
Dragonsteel
your next
developed their own AI and they've only fed
Yeah,
it what Yasna has ever said,
be cool.
that would she I don't think she ever talks about fish, so I don't know if that
Um,
well,
one last tangent while we're on it. I
yeah.
had a thought. We all mostly believe that the epigraphs are written by Yasna. I couldn't remember if we had a timeline for when she wrote them. Obviously, it's after the events of this book.
I think personally, are you wanting me to say mine?
Well, I was curious if it's possible that she writes it during her book, book 10.
Huh. I mean, it's possible. I
I don't know.
personally, if spoiler alert, things are changing. Second of all,
Sorry. I can
uh,
hold this.
just to get it out of the way, I personally think that Yasna would be writing it within like a year after the the 10-day after the contest of champions. So she's like rebuilding whatever the Alethi kingdom can be rebuilt,
Hmm.
and then she's writing it saying
Yeah.
they are my witnesses. Just like that. She got old. She got old man all of a sudden. All right. That's too close to my face. That's fine now. That's good. Okay. We are also trying something new with recording on Zoom and moving away from Riverside for this part. So please bear with us if it took longer to put these out. Oh my God, the Mistborn deck builder. That is going to be shipped soon. That's what the news was. That's
Oh, nice.
yeah. So Words of Radiance, unsigned, tiers going out. Then they're going to do the add-ons. And then they also
Hmm.
said when the Mistborn deck builder got posted on their website, they were like, this is a placeholder. You'll be charged right before we send the copies out. Some news on that. They have decided every Mistborn deck builder game sold through Dragonsteel's store will come with the foil cards. They're just not going to be able to restock it until after Nexus. They'll also have the board game with the holo cards at Nexus. So if you're going to
Yeah.
Nexus, you want to pick that up. Uh, and for those of you who are in the backer kit doing the Cosmere TTRPG, you can get it there. However, it will not ship until next like summer to you. So, but it will come with the foil cards. The foil cards are the exclusive thing here. The only time you're not getting the foil cards is if you go to your friendly local game store, which is sad because normally people like hype up FLGS. Okay. Like I was saying, we're trying something out new. If this goes up later than expected, you know what? I have to set boundaries, so suck it up, Buttercup. And also, I'm a little sorry, but it's mostly suck it up, Buttercup. Griff will be joining us in, well, he did say 5 to 10 minutes, 10 minutes ago. So now we're going to wait in silence.
I can't.
Ah, I was gonna,
That's a good bit though.
yeah, yeah. We wait for like 31 seconds, like Sanderson did in that one video, and then we both put our own secret projects up on a thing.
Oh,
Confirmed. Yeah. High Cosmere
confirmed.
connection, completely fan fiction. Yeah. I'm
Um,
I don't want to start reading the chapter because if
reading.
Griff
He's
comes
gonna
in,
come in.
well,
Hmm.
actually, because I did set it up so that all the audio is on separate tracks, I can just mute that later. I got a new computer and the screen is much bigger and I really enjoy it.
Nice. Why don't
Thank
you just text Griff? We're gonna start reading. Come in quietly.
Oh yeah, that'd be good. That's Man, you're such a problem solver. Thank you.
You know me, always doing the thing with the thing in my head.
I do. Boom. I texted him that.
Nice.
If he doesn't come in muted, it's because he didn't read the text.
Or he just ignored you.
Or just I'm unlikely. Griff's pretty
How do I meet myself? Oh, right here. Okay,
yep.
cool.
And do you also want to turn off your video?
Yeah. You ready to
Yeah.
go?
Have you I'm ready. Yeah. I'll see you on the page flip side. Chapter 23. Compromise. Would that men could always do the same. If I could enshrine one law in all further legal codes, it would be this. Let people leave if they wish. From The Way of Kings, fourth parable. The drizzle had fully committed to rain by the time Radiant's team moved into position. If those last few Ghostbloods were coming to the meeting, they would arrive soon. And if there weren't more coming, well, an enemy conference was likely underway, making it even more important that Radiant get into that hideout. So, she helped Gaz wheel a small tool cart down the roadway past rain-spren-like candles, each with a single eye on top. They reached an intersection right in the front of the Ghostblood hideout. She found the Ghostblood setting up here to be impressively blatant. When others made hideouts in grimy corners of the worst parts of a city, they chose the middle of a storming military camp. Some people higher in the Alethi military must be in Mraize's pocket. She'd have work to do uncovering them all. Once in position, she and Red began to set up a small pavilion in the rain. They'd dropped their light weavings, relying on hooded cloaks to mask their faces, in case that sand could reveal them. Soon, someone from the Ghostbloods, as expected, came to check on them. It wasn't the masked guard. Damnation. Radiant kept calm and allowed Red to handle it while she hung back, fiddling with their tools. The guard she wanted, the one with the mask, emerged from the shadowed porch but did not approach. Hey, the other Ghostblood said as he arrived. What's this? His name was Shade, a man with Horneater blood, though he looked more Alethi despite the forked beard. She thought the masked woman had fetched him as they were setting up. We're supposed to level this intersection, Red said. He noted Shade's Alethi uniform. I have the orders somewhere, Sergeant. You're supposed to work in the rain? Shade demanded. Yeah, storming unfair, Red thumbed at the little pavilion. At least we've got that. If you want to take it up with the camp operations commander, I wouldn't mind a little time off. Shade picked through the tools, then poked around in the pavilion, while the masked guard lurked by the building. Adelin's sessions with Radiant let her spot the readiness of a trained soldier, the stance, the alert attention. Calm, careful, Radiant rearranged the tools after Shade finished poking through them. He was built like a boulder, so it would be easy to assume he was the more dangerous, but he didn't have the casual grace the masked woman did. Shade stepped back in thought, rain dripping down his beard. He wouldn't want to draw attention, but he also wouldn't want random workers so close to their base, maybe hearing things they shouldn't. Back up and work somewhere else, he told Red, for at least a couple more hours. You don't need authorization. Just tell them I gave the orders. Red glanced at Radiant, and, hood pulled tight, she nodded. Yes, Sergeant, Red said with a sigh. The two of them slowly began disassembling. The pavilion. Shade returned to the masked guard and they exchanged whispers. Then the guard fell into position by the door while Shade slipped inside, passing a large jar of the black sand that had been tied hanging outside. That's a problem, Red whispered over the sound of beating rain. Did you catch their exchange? Pattern said from Radiant's coat. He said, I want them gone by the time Aika and Yezinor get here. And the woman said, yeah. We were supposed to lure out the short one, Red said. We need that mask. I'll go in close and deal with her, Radiant said. You sure? Red asked. What if she makes noise? I'll be quick, she replied, noting Gaz as he came trotting up to them. My part's done, Gaz said. Why are we taking the pavilion down? Get angry about it, Radiant said, with a nudge from Vale. Demand to know who gave these orders. Pretend you're our foreman. Gaz launched into it with gusto, complaining loudly that they didn't have authorization to set up anywhere else. He did well enough, he even drew a few anger spren. Perfect. Shalon and Red set up the pavilion again. They'd barely started disassembling it, while Gaz demanded to speak to the sergeant who had changed their orders. With that as an excuse, Radiant told Pattern to wait behind, then walked over to the building. She stepped out of the rain into the covered porch and hesitated by the door. The guard emerged from the shadows, mask peeking from the front of her hood. As on Eatil, it made the woman seem inhuman. Painted wood, without carvings of facial features, hiding all except those eyes, locked onto her. Oh, Radiant said. Sorry, but, our foreman wants to talk to you. It's, sorry. The guard took her by the arm. Radiant twisted and whipped up her other hand, pushing a small stiletto toward the guard's throat. The enemy caught it, her eyes narrowing, then grunted and shoved Radiant backward, trying to trip her. A year training with Adolin gave Radiant some unexpected grit. She resisted the shove and kept her stance, locking eyes with the masked creature. Now, she ordered her armor. In a blink, the armor formed, not around her, but around the guard, freezing her in place as it had read earlier. Radiant caught a glimpse of a pair of shocked eyes as the helmet encased the woman's face. Shalom, 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 shalom. The creation's spren said, eager. Just keep her mouth closed, she said, like the drawing Shalon did for you, right? Shalom, 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 shalom. They replied in a chorus. The only sound from the guard was muffled exertion, so hopefully the helmet plan was working. Radiant thought they'd explained it well enough to the creation spren, a mechanism that held the jaw shut by making the helmet tighter at the bottom below the mask. She checked the sand in the hanging jar, still black as she'd hoped. They'd said that it took an intelligent spren to activate the stuff, which made sense, otherwise it would be useless, turning white in warning whenever someone got anxious. Her plate spren hadn't affected it even when forming. Red and Gaz came jogging up. "It worked," Radiant whispered, her heart thumping from the exchange. Gaz nodded toward the woman's motionless left hand, raising a knife toward Radiant. The gauntlet had simply formed around it, letting the blade peek out. She'd missed that entirely. A good warning. A year of practice had given her some skill, but it was a weak substitute for a lifetime of battle experience. Red whispered, wheeling over the cart. "She could have healed from it."
And what would that have done to the sand?
Gaz whispered, gesturing toward the glass jar.
We're not sure if the healing will activate it or not. If so, the first person who stepped through that door would have known a Radiant had been here.
He inspected the armor closer, locked down as it was.
Yet this did work. I can barely hear her.
The captive woman didn't even tremble from struggling to escape. Together they managed to tip her into the two-wheeled cart, throw a tarp over her, then wheel it into their small pavilion. Had any guards on the walls seen? Darcira and the strike team were poised to intercept any who came running, but still she worried. "Move quickly," Shallan thought, taking over from Radiant. She didn't want the last few Ghostbloods to arrive at the door and find the guard missing. Gaz put his arms around the head of the armored woman to be in position. He nodded. Shallan touched the armor. "Could you dismiss just the helmet, please?" she asked.
Shallan, Shallan, Shallan.
The armor said. The helmet vanished in a puff of stormlight. Gaz snapped his arms around the woman's neck, executing a perfect chokehold. Shallan needed Radiant again for a moment while watching the struggling woman be strangled, her eyes bulging, her skin going a deep red around the mask. Gaz didn't kill her, though he held her on longer than Radiant thought necessary. He'd explained earlier. Assuming your attacker didn't want to kill you, the best way to escape a chokehold was to pretend to fall unconscious early. So Gaz ignored the struggles, the pain spren, the frantic eyes, the sudden limpness, and counted to himself softly. She'd never asked how he knew this so well. Gaz nodded, and Shallan dismissed the armor, then began stripping to her undergarments while the two other Lightweavers efficiently undressed the guard, then bound and gagged her. Gaz had warned Shallan that people usually didn't stay unconscious for long after being choked out. Indeed, the guard was stirring as Shallan finished redressing, wearing the woman's clothing, utilitarian brown leathers that weren't particularly form-fitting, along with a hooded cloak and a frightening number of knives strapped across her person. Though Shallan was accustomed to being short compared to the Alethi, she was a tad taller than this off-worlder. Close enough, hopefully. She already had her hair under a wig, but her options had been limited, so she was distressed to notice that the guard had closer cropped hair than the pictures had depicted. Storms. She'd cut her hair, which meant Shallan would have to leave the hood up indoors. Would that seem odd? Red knelt beside the figure, then, appearing more unnerved by this than stripping a captive, tried to figure out how to remove the mask. Turned out it was bound in place by two cords, which he undid and pulled the red-orange mask free. Shallan expected it to stick. She'd always felt that Eatel had worn her so long that the skin had grown over it. That proved to be an incorrect assumption. The mask was obviously removed and cleaned often, but it was also worn so continuously that it left imprints on the guard's face. Her skin was as pale as Shallan's, and without the mask she seemed far less dangerous. Though she was probably in her middle years, her face was smooth, almost childlike. "Stop that," Shallan thought, taking the mask from Red. "You need to stop comparing all Shin people to children." It was a bad habit. Besides, this woman wasn't even Shin. She was an off-worlder who just happened to look Shin. Shallan tied on the mask and pulled up her hood. The mask covered her face and was peaked slightly at the center, sloped at the sides. It was wide enough that her ears would barely be visible. Aside from the eye holes, it had two holes near the nose for breathing, and a small portion was missing for the mouth, like a bite had been taken out of it at the chin. Red nodded. "Looks pretty good."
I don't know,
Gaz replied, scratching his cheek.
It would fool a casual passerby. But the Ghostbloods?
Shallan fell into an imitation of the woman's stance. Dangerous, ready, stepping with the kind of casual grace that took years to perfect. She narrowed her eyes behind the mask, mimicking the woman's expression, conveying it through posture. Well done, Vale thought. Red glanced at Gaz, cocking an eyebrow.
All right, fine,
Gaz said.
I still find it creepy how she can do things like that. Just don't take the hood off. The hair is wrong.
A moment later, Darcira ducked into the pavilion. You're not in place yet? Going now, Shalon said in a whisper, as it was easier to mask her voice that way. Did you find your watch post? Darcira said to Gaz.
Yeah,
He said.
neutralize them fast enough to show up here and help. What took you so long?
Had to go and position the strike team, if you forgot, Darcira said. What do we do if there were more than 2 observation posts watching the base? None of them could answer that, but they don't spotted only 2 in their sweep of the area. They had to trust in their skills. Shalon slipped one of her team's span reeds into her sleeve, glanced at Pattern, dimpling the wood of the cart, humming to himself nervously, then waved goodbye. She left them, instead falling into place by the alcove. She maintained the same posture and stance as before, sticking to shadows, not speaking. You can do this, Vale whispered. Her heart still thrummed like listener war drums. She was going to enter the enemy stronghold alone and could not use her powers. But it was the only way. What did you do when there was a guard watching for you? You became the guard. Not 5 minutes later, Shalon spotted 2 people trotting up to the safe house, Aika and Yezanor, a pair of Phelan traders. They'd arrived with Queen Fen's retinue, which explained why they were some of the last. They'd needed to find an excuse to come to the Shattered Plains. Shalon's nervousness faded as she made a good show of checking their features with her hands, then holding the glass jar of sand up to each one. Neither seemed to notice anything off. She knocked on the door as she'd seen done before. She'd opened it and waved the other 2 in. Shalon slipped in herself, and he held the door open for her. They'd be trusting their watchpost to send span read warnings if anything approached the safe house. Posting a guard outside for too long risked drawing attention. This was it. Vale was right. She could do this. Unless they asked her to say too much. Unless there was a 3rd watchpost they hadn't found. Unless her disguise failed. It was too late now. She had walked confidently straight into the den. Now she either proved to be a predator herself, or she got eaten. Navani left Dalinar alone in the room with the plants to talk to the Stormfather while she stepped outside with the others, knowing he'd fill her in later. She entered a world of chaos. Strategists planning, messengers running orders, a world spinning up to deal with another crisis. It was time to be a queen, which regrettably meant dealing with all the random issues that no one else could. At the perimeter of the room, at least a dozen people waited for her attention. So many systems had fallen apart during the occupation. Schooling had been ignored. Trade for less important supplies, everything from extra buttons to feed for pet axe hounds, had been interrupted. Now, with the tower awakened, many problems were being solved while others, such as those who got to use which services when, were just beginning. They could handle it without her, but they didn't know it. And perhaps she needed to banish such thoughts. She was important to the administration of this tower, this kingdom, vital even. So she went into motion, assigning some of her staff to various problems. McCall to rehouse people living in whose living quarters now turned out to be important for other reasons. Then on to organize meals for everyone attending the meeting, and to covertly keep a list of who was sending what messages where, just in case. Next, she found High Prince Sabariel and Polona waiting for her. They had learned an unfortunate lesson, that sometimes you had to put yourself where Navani could see you in order to get her time. They had questions about how to get supplies into the city if there was a war on the Shattered Plain. We can't keep relying on the Oath Gates, Sabariel said, rubbing his forehead. The girthy man had gone back to wearing an open-fronted takama, now that the weather was summer at the tower, and his belly poked out in a way he reportedly thought was distinguished. But organizing shipments from Aesir up through these mountains is going to be an enormous hassle. Flying them in will be prohibitively expensive in Stormlight unless we can make more airships. Yes, we can grow food for now, but other supplies. Bring me proposals, Navani said, looking over Pollona's ledgers. This was supposed to make me rich, Sabariel said. I was High Prince of Commerce. I was supposed to be able to skim thousands to line my own pockets. But I can barely make any of this balance. There's nothing to skim. Don't mind him, Brightness, Polona said. He's having a rough time with how responsible he's becoming. You're good at being useful, Sabariel, Navani said. That's the problem, isn't it? My darkest secret, he grumbled. I still pay for my household staff, vacations, and massages out of public funds, I'll have you know. It's a huge scandal. I'm sure Brightness Navani knows what a miscreant you are, Gemheart, Polona said, patting his arm. He sighed. We're mobilizing troops to Thalena and the Shattered Plains. You're authorizing active battle pay, then? You realize this is going to dip into what little we have remaining. We might be able to offer extra rations instead of battle pay in some cases. Thank the Almighty for the emeralds we got on the Shattered Plains, Polona said. It's the only way we're making enough food for everyone right now. I'll see if we can get more time with the Radiant Soulcasters, Navani said. Given the way the tower is functioning, we can have them working at an increased speed. They break gemstones as they work, Brightness, Sabariel said. Even Radiant Soulcasters need gems as a focus, which means we can't continue like this forever. We'll need a Gemheart ranch up here, but there isn't a lot of space, so we can't lose the Shattered Plains. She did her best to calm him, then took a meeting with High Prince Aladar on the status of the Light Eyes. There was a lot of general panic about Yasna's work to free the Alethi slaves, a decision that Dalinar had copied for Urithiru after some persuasion. It would be a slow process designed to take effect over time, with social systems in place to facilitate. Yasna, as usual, had done her research. However, the Light Eyes were pushing back. Tradition will be cast to the winds, Aladar said. The upright, natural order of things is being trampled. How can the light-eyed families maintain themselves without lands and taxes? What does it even mean to be light-eyed any longer? It means what it has always meant, Navani said. Which is? Aladar asked. Brightness, the elevation of Stormbliss to a full house, and now to a third dawn? What about the other radiants? More than 3/4 of them were dark-eyed and are now light. It's chaos. It's a problem for after the contest, Aladar, Navani said, when we're not focused on a mass invasion. For now, I need logistical work from you. Make certain that supplies are transferred per the General's requests. Fen can provision some of the soldiers we send her, but if we move battalions to Narak, they'll run out of water quickly if we don't prepare. Also, make sure to check on Adolin and get him what he needs. The stately, bald man shook his head and sighed. As you wish, but my concerns won't go away, Brightness. This problem is a bubbling cauldron. It's going to overflow. Only the invasions are stopping it. I know, she said, but let's worry about the crisis we are facing now first, Aladar. He bowed, then went to see to her orders. She tried not to be annoyed, and commanded the appearing irritation spread to vanish. Aladar was reasonable for a High Lord, and was simply passing on what the less reasonable High Lords were thinking. They were a powerful contingent, and hadn't failed to notice that, after years of politicking, almost everyone who had opposed Dalinar was now dead. Rumors about what had really happened to Sadeas churned, for all that Yasna worked behind the scenes to quash them. Yes, the upper ranks of the Light Eyes were a bubbling cauldron. Unfortunately for them, the Dark Eyes had been boiling for far longer, and they suddenly had access to advocates in the form of people who could bend the laws of reality. She suspected that if it came to a head, the Light Eyes would discover how little tradition was worth in the face of centuries of pent-up rage. Navani put that problem out of her mind for the time being. It was dangerous to do so, but she had to perform mental triage. War was upon them, and for 8 more days she needed to keep everyone pointed the same direction. She worked through a dozen other problems as functionaries and aides found her. She kept turning and finding life spread swirling around her, or glory spread skulking by the ceiling, or any number of them darting around. It was like she was some storming heroine from a story, the silly type where a young and innocent girl always had 1,000 life spread or whatever bobbing around her. As she worked, she kept glancing toward the room where Dalinar met with the Stormfather. He'd always been ambitious, but this? Is it right what he contemplates? She asked the sibling. Ascending to honor? Someone will need to eventually, the sibling said. The power can't be left to its own devices. It will come awake. Why hasn't it already? It's been thousands of years. Whatever the reason, be glad. These powers aren't like the tiny pieces that become spren. The power of a shard needs a partner, a vessel. Without it? What? Navani asked. Great danger. We do not think as humans do. To separate the power from those who are attached to the physical realm? That should frighten you. It is not so terrible a thing for part of me to despise you, but for the power of a god too? Dangerous. For all of us. Navani shivered at the sibling's tone, but had to keep working. She checked in with her scholars, who had been waiting patiently in the next room, one of the few small ones that made a ring around the lifts up here. Inside, 7 Ardents had set up a display. Navani hated to make them cart it all the way up here, but despite the faster lifts, there just wasn't time for her to go elsewhere for meetings. People needed to come to her. Rushu met her at the doorway, in her usual gray Ardent's robes, sweat trickling down her brow. Indeed, this room was uncomfortably warm. The pretty woman was, as usual, trailed by several younger male Ardents eager for her attention. In this case, they'd volunteered to set up Rushu's presentation. Even after all these years, Navani couldn't decide if Rushu was oblivious or deliberate in the way she ignored masculine interest. Brightness, Rushu said, bowing as she entered. Thank you for making the time. I don't have long, I'm afraid, Navani said. Dalinar is antagonizing the Stormfather again, and I'll need to go the moment he's ready to talk. Understood, Brightness, Rushu said, walking her to a counter, set up with some fabrials and a small oven burning soul-cast coal, of all things. A separate attractor fabrial above it collected the smoke and invisible deadly gases in a sphere of swirling blackness, allowing the small oven to burn without scent or the need for a chimney. Flame spren played within, their iridescent forms mimicking the shape of the fire and the molten red coloring of the hearts of coal. Beside the oven was a more modern heating device, a large ruby fabrial like the ones they'd installed in many rooms. Those were proving, to the siblings' annoyance, more effective than the tower's ancient methods, which required heating air in a boiler at the center of each floor, then blowing it into the specific room when requested. While that was amazing, a simple ruby heating fabrial didn't waste energy keeping massive boilers going all the time. Unfortunately, modern fabrials had other problems, at least in the eyes of the sibling. We've only had a day or so to work, Rushu said, but I wanted to show you our progress. This was an enlightened idea you had, and could revolutionize the fabrial art. Brightness, this could be your legacy. Our legacy, Rushu, Navani said. You're doing the work. Pardon, Brightness. It's your idea. Your genius. Navani prepared another complaint, then discarded it. Storms. Maybe she was growing. Thank you, Rushu. Let's not assume we've changed the world after one day's work, though. Show me what you've done. Rushu unlatched the glass front of the oven. The group of flame spren within shivered as the cool air entered, then continued to frolic, taking the shapes of small minks cavorting over the surface of the burning coal. She plucked a coal out with a pair of tongs, then nodded to one of her assistants. The heating fabrial next to the oven had an outlet valve, basically a hole drilled into the gemstone that they kept plugged with an aluminum stopper. The assistant unscrewed the plug and opened the valve, usually something quite inadvisable, because the moment he did so, the flame spren in the heating fabrial, a vital piece of what powered it, would escape. This one scrambled out onto the plug and immediately started to vanish back into the cognitive realm. Then Rushu held her coal close to it. Another Ardent used tuning forks to play what they hoped was a comforting tone to the spren. Instead of vanishing, the flame spren hopped onto the coal in Rushu's hand and let her deposit it in the oven. She came out a moment later with a different flame spren on another coal, blinking glowing red eyes, red fur blazing along its form. Calmed by the tone, it let her bring it over to the fabrial. They trapped it inside using modern techniques of stormlight and diffusion. Then, with the gemstone plugged and a new spren inside, they recharged the fabrial with a radiance help and turned it back on so it began heating again. "What abomination are you creating now?" the sibling asked in Navani's head. "Abomination?" Navani replied. "Did you not just see what we did?" "Enslaving spren," the sibling said, "in torment and captivity." Navani leaned down by the front glass of the oven, where the spren were scampering across the coals. "Torment, you say? Tell me, sibling, which of these spren was the one held captive? If it was tormented, I can't see any lasting effect." "It's still wrong to keep spren in such small prisons," the sibling said. "Brightness," Rushu said, leaning in beside her and looking at the spren in the oven. "This is really possible. Did you read the writings of Geranid and Aesir I gave you?" "Some of it," Navani said, "before the invasion. I know they've been able to keep the same flame spren for months at a time without losing them to the cognitive realm. It requires maintenance of a fire." "Yes, but there's more," Rushu said. "Their research taught me something amazing. The flame spren will stay even longer if you give them treats." "What kind of treats do flame spren want?" Navani asked. "More coal?" "Names," Rushu said. "Names and compliments. Brightness, if you think about the spren, they mold to your thoughts." "I read about the molding process," Navani said. "If you measure them, they lock to those measurements, but compliments?" "This one is Bippy," Rushu said, pointing to one of the spren. "See how its head has that little tuft on top?" Bippy looked toward them at the attention, then hopped up to the edge of the oven, staring out with two large eyes, a bit of fire itself, responding to Rushu merely mentioning its name. "Fascinating," Navani said as some of the glory spren that trailed her began to spin around the two of them. "We can cultivate them over time," Rushu said. "An entire herd? Pod?" "I'm voting for a flare," one of the other Ardents said. "A flare of flame spren." "An entire flare, then," Rushu said, "of domesticated flame spren. It's too early to tell, but Brightness, you might be right. If they can be trained, then we can teach them to go in and out of fabrials on command." "Domesticated flame spren?" the sibling asked. "Nonsense." "Is it?" Navani asked, still watching Bippy. Rushu moved her finger back and forth in front of the glass, and Bippy ran to follow it. When Rushu complimented the spren on its trick, Navani could have sworn that Bippy glowed brighter. "Intelligent spren seek bonds with people. Why not lesser spren?" It isn't natural," the sibling said. "Pardon, sibling," Navani said, "but neither is living in towers that are climate controlled. If we conformed only to what was natural, my people would be living naked in the wilderness and defecating on the ground." The sibling simmered in the back of her mind like a burning coal themselves. "You've said our practices are cruel," Navani said, trying to soften her tone. "I'm attempting to do something about that. We keep trolls as beasts of burden. Can we not do the same for spren? If being in a fabrial is uncomfortable for a spren, well, so is pulling a cart for a troll. But assuming it's not too bad, we should be able to train them to do it willingly, with rewards. We can cultivate them, sibling. Isn't this a better way? To have spren take shifts in the fabrials, with training to get in and out willingly?" She held her breath, waiting. The sibling had been hard-nosed about this. See my heart, sibling, she sent. See that I am trying. I see, the sibling said. Rushu jolted and looked around, as did the other Ardents, indicating the sibling had chosen to be audible to them as well. This is a good thing you attempt. All Spren being free would be preferable, but if this works, perhaps I can see a compromise. Thank you for listening and changing. I had forgotten that people are capable of that. Navani released a held breath, and with it a mountain of tension. Rushu's eyes had gone wide, and the ardent fiddled in her pocket, pulling free a notebook. Sibling? Rushu whispered, Osprey bursting around her. Thank you for talking to me. Thank you so much. What is this? The sibling asked Navani. Rushu's been asking after you constantly since we bonded, Navani thought. Haven't you heard? As I said, I don't pay attention to every word spoken inside my halls, the sibling said, only to what is relevant. Then, after a pause, they continued. Is this relevant? To Rushu? Yes, Navani said. With her notepad out, Rushu bit her lip and looked to Navani pleadingly. Rushu would like the chance to talk to you, Navani said out loud. I think she wants to ask you about Fabrials. Very well, the sibling said, and Rushu gasped softly. You should go, Navani. I believe your husband's conversation with my sibling is finished. There will be ramifications. Navani nodded. As she left, though, she heard the first of Rushu's questions, and was surprised that it wasn't about Fabrials at all. Navani tells me, Rushu said, that you are neither male nor female. It is true. Could you tell me more about that? Rushu asked. To a human, it must sound very strange. Actually, it doesn't, Rushu said quietly. Not in the slightest. But talk, please. I want to know how it feels to be you. Navani left them to it, pleased. The Fabrial experiment showed promise. But more, if she could get the sibling talking to other scholars, she suspected that would help the Spren's reintegration. So far, the sibling only worked with them because Navani had essentially bullied them back into a bond. The more friends, or at least acquaintances, that the sibling had, the better. For now, though, it was time for Navani to deal with another Spren, and with a husband who had decided to become God. The end of the chapter has an image of the Fabrial contraption and the oven where the flame spren are kept. It has various images of the flame spren interacting with one another as a mink, and it shows Bippy specifically with its little crown. If anybody tries to kill Bippy, we will kill them. No, that was something I added. That wasn't actually in the end of chapter 23. That was...
Okay.
If anything happens to Bippy, I will kill everyone in this room and then myself.
Oh no. But yes. Yes. It turns out Bippy is the sunlit man.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is exactly how it occurs.
We're going to go ahead and do full spoilers for everything because I know that we're eventually going to get there. Spoilers.
So, I have an important question
What's your
before we go on
question?
to anything else.
Oh God.
My important question is, what are the other collective nouns for the other elemental spren? I have a proposal for the stone spren at least.
Okay, what's your proposal for the stone spren?
My proposal for the stone spren is a scree.
That's good. That is okay. Motion seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I gotta look this word up.
Scree? You don't need to look it up. It's a scree. What could be more perfect than a scree of stone spread?
Oh wow, the mass of small loose stones that form or cover a slope on a mountain. I third it.
That's brilliant. Life spren.
Well, I was just thinking the elemental, though we could do all common
Oh,
friend if we
I mean,
wanted to.
is not life elemental? That's fair.
I mean, I
I
suppose
was
I was just
there's
thinking the
what
basic four elements, but
water friend. You can do like a wave of water friend.
Wave.
okay, yeah, I like that.
Motion seconded. All in favor.
Wind friend. What would you do?
A
A
gust.
breeze,
I
a
was thinking
gust.
gust. I was thinking gust.
Yeah, a gust. That's better than a breeze.
Yeah, because a gust is more action. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so now that we have these set in place, we need to present them to Brandon Sanderson to make sure they're canonized.
Yes. We should all take turns at Dragonsteel Nexus, um, pretty much bending his arm every single question.
That would be the funniest thing if we could actually troll Brandon Sanderson just for one Q&A. Just like the first like 10 questions are all just like a theme.
That would be hilarious.
If we could coordinate that without him knowing about it, like on Reddit or something,
That would be
that'd so funny.
amazing.
That would be amazing.
Just have like 10
Just like first
people.
question,
Each
what
with,
is a group of
each
water
with
spren called? What's a group of rock spren called? Just like
What's
that'd be
a
so
group of
funny.
life spren called? What's a group of creation spren
Why
called?
doesn't my mom love me? Just kidding, Mom. I love you. I know you love me.
Damn.
That's so funny. Why did I fail my English class in the 7th grade?
Because you didn't read. Actually, because you can't read.
Interestingly enough, on a completely separate note, I found out that another word for a spree is a talus, which explains the enemy in Breath of the Wild.
That does make sense. A talus. That's good.
Yeah, I didn't know that until I looked up spree, and yeah, it said another word for a spree is a talus. So
I'm gonna go ahead and say it's gonna be a spelunk of cave spren.
Along.
yes.
I love it.
Even though spelunk is not a noun, spelunking is a noun. To spelunk is anyways, that's a gerund. It doesn't matter. Wow. Okay, so we have more.
Pint of alcohol spren.
Yep, a pint of alcohol spren. That would be a jitter of caffeine spren.
Yeah, that works.
My God.
It's just gonna keep going. We're gonna. I think
Now I feel trolled.
they might have a list of all the spren.
We need to have an episode where we take a list of all the different kinds of spren and we just work through all of them to create collective nouns.
Yes.
Because all we have is a fire, which is a flare. So I feel like this is a good bonus episode.
That's funny.
That is a good bonus episode.
I actually feel like it might be even better if we could get Stormlight memes and stuff like that. I think the more people we have for this exercise, the more entertaining it would be.
That would be mass chaos.
Yes, it would. This is why it would be a bonus episode. It wouldn't be structured. It would just all of us going off the cuff on collective nouns for the spren.
A storm of logic spren? No, that doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, that would.
No.
Like a brainstorm. That's funny.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That actually. Hey, yeah. There you go. You fixed it for
There
me.
you go. I thought that's what you were doing.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a better one. Anyways, back to the chapter because that's what we do now, right?
What?
The chapter. Back to the chapter.
Yes, the chapter is what we do. I'm sorry, I derailed us. You are correct.
Are we not? We're not going to spend an hour talking about Spren?
I guess you're right. Yeah. I'm thinking a mass of chaos spren because mass
A
chaos.
crafting of creation spren.
Okay, crafting. Crafting is good. An
Fear Spren? What would Fear Spren be?
a
A terror?
Yeah. Terror. A terror of fear spren.
One Trevor of Anxiety Spren.
Boom.
Boom.
Perfect.
Done.
An awe of glory spren.
Okay.
An agony of pain spren.
That's good.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Is this Inside Out 3 that you're describing?
Yeah. Um, a,
Okay,
a
back to the
clump,
chapter.
a clump of boredom
No,
spren.
no, no, no.
Yep, yep.
I'm gonna
Let's
kill
please this
Bippy,
for the
guys.
bonus
I'm gonna kill
episode.
Bippy.
Don't you dare.
If you kill Bippy, we all die. That was the rules.
Oh man.
Mutually
Okay,
assured destruction.
what happened
Yeah.
in this episode? Okay, they
They talked about Spren,
Shallan
and then there
Shallan's
was a
going into it.
detente.
Shallan's going into a tent with the Ghost Bloods.
Yep. There really wasn't
Um,
super much there, except we got like
Wait, was it a tent or was it a building?
it
I
was a
had the feeling it was a building.
well, it was
I
like
just I saw a tent in my mind.
yeah, it's like a they're like a building that's gonna go down. I think
It's a temporary building.
it's like yeah, so I was imagining like kind of like a not super permanent building.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like our version of scaffolding, kind of.
Yeah, yeah, with
But
some
like, but yeah,
something like
with
that.
like some
Make it
structure on
look
the outside.
yeah, to make it look inconspicuous.
Mm-hmm.
There really wasn't a whole lot to talk about here other than Shallan is learning to be herself. The
And
Yep.
we might get a final confrontation with Ghost Bloods.
oh yeah.
I feel like
Which,
this chapter or this POV is like kind of setting up Shallan for after this book. It
Really?
seems like Sanderson is gonna go the route with like Shallan's gonna be a new world hopper, and we're gonna have another side to root for against the Ghost Bloods rather than just like not the Ghost Bloods. I don't know.
That could be something. I
okay, now do we think that Sanderson might pull a twist and have Shallan actually take over the Ghost Bloods after killing the leader?
That would be kind of cool to like see her like go up each boss up to like Kelsier.
I I feel like she's rejected the Ghost Bloods enough here, uh,
Mm-hmm.
that she's not
She could infiltrate though. Like I don't know.
good.
I could see it happening.
But like we already have the back of the blurb or the blurb on the back of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's my theory. Here's what we got.
Ooh.
Shallan left Lasting Integrity thinking Collect was safe and
Mm-hmm.
not having the only promise, progress, whatever that she has
Mm-hmm.
is I have to kill Maraise, don't I? And Wit's like, you sure do. So no, he wasn't. But he sort of was. So Shallan gets it in her mind. She has to kill Maraise. That's her goal right now. She thinks Kalek is safe. She thinks the Ghost Bloods don't know about where Ba Mishrim is. She's going to go into this meeting and they are going to have some special way of getting in the spiritual realm and they are all going to blip without her. And that is going to cause her high stress and motivate her to go after them in the spiritual realm. And that's going to be her next promise that gets to the progress and payoff.
Okay. That'd be an interesting one. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Because if all the Ghost Bloods are meeting in one spot, what are they doing? They're about to go to Shadesmar, and I bet some of them are going to go to the spiritual realm.
Mm.
So we'll see if that theory holds up.
Yeah, I think they probably want to go to the spiritual realm because that seems like where everybody's going in this book.
Yeah.
How
Even
they're
Kaladin.
gonna do that, I don't know how. They have to have a spy because like Dalinar and Navani are gonna lead that trek, right? So I feel like they would have to have a spy, which do we know who their spy is close to Dalinar?
Um.
Has that been revealed yet? I can't remember.
Oh man, was it?
Wasn't it some woman, like some like a nanny or something? Not Gavinor's like nanny, but it was something like that. I thought. Maybe I'm crazy. I'm probably crazy.
I'm trying to think.
I don't honestly remember. The one thing I can say is that I am actually curious how they're going to get to the spiritual realm because, considering we're full spoilers, I don't mind saying this. We've really only seen into the spiritual realm once, which was when Kelsier was interacting with Preservation. And he was able to peek into the spiritual realms to see the timelines.
Right. I mean, if you want to get technical, every time Gliss shows Renarin a glimpse of the future, that's like a glimpse into the spiritual realm too. But no, I know what you mean.
So I'm kind of curious about how it's going to look physically entering that, because what we've seen of the spiritual realm so far, it doesn't seem to be someplace you could physically travel all that easily. So
did y'all end up reading the end of, or did y'all end up reading chapter 22 or listening to me read it?
Yes.
I did not. I need to go back and do that.
Well, yes, you do, Griff, because Hoyt specifically tells Dalinar that Dalinar needs to only send his mind into the spiritual realm and his body needs to stay in the physical realm, like Days of Future Past.
Oh, interesting.
Actually,
do we think that's...
Sanderson loves X-Men so much, he actually mentions Days of Future Past in Wind and Truth. So you really need to.
Of course. At this point, I don't even recall what I was going to say.
Something about how you want Bippy to die? I don't know.
I think that was it.
Probably, yeah. You know me. I always have that have it out for Bippy.
Off screen, just cursing his name. What was that?
Sprenocidal thoughts.
Oh my god.
A haunting of Ghost Spren.
As I said, we need to leave this for the bonus episode.
A graveyard of Death Spren.
Ooh, nice. An owie of Pain Spren. Sorry.
A boo boo.
What about a reaping of Death Spren?
Oh, I like that.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. A boo boo of Pain Spren.
A boo boo.
Good job.
So I guess my agony one has been shown up.
Oh yeah, sorry. Forgot about your agony.
Okay, where were we? I don't even know.
Yep.
A shining of Light Spren?
Yep.
Are Light Spren even a thing?
They are now.
Okay, that works.
Yeah, so
we're talking about Shallan, maybe?
We were talking about Shallan, and I don't remember what I specifically was saying, but I do remember that we were talking about Shallan, and no, we were talking about getting into the spiritual realm, and the fact that I needed to go back and listen to chapter 22 because Hoyt talked about getting into the spiritual realm for Dalinar using only his mind.
Yeah, and he name dropped Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
Yes. And then I was talking about the fact of, I was wondering if Shallan was going to be going into the spiritual realm physically, or if she was going to be going in via her mind in the same way Dalinar is.
Well, I think they're going. Well, no, I guess you're right. They're going with their mind, but they have like a physical self in the spiritual realm.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's probably how it's going to work, which is their mental projection is going to be able to interact physically in the spiritual realm.
So we can
somewhat in the same way that both Yasna and Shallan have appeared physically in the cognitive realm when only visiting there via their mind.
Right. So if we were to assume that the Ghost Bloods know that they need to go with just their mind, what if they went to Shadesmar in the tower, which is probably less like defended, and then they can just, when Dalinar brings all three realms together, they could theoretically go with that. I just don't know if that's visible in Shadesmar or not.
So what's going to happen is they're going to drink the Kool-Aid, and then all of them and Braze are going to ride the comet into the spiritual realm.
That is
Did you
100%
say
confirmed.
Kool-Aid?
Yeah.
Yes, I was.
Kool-Aid Spren confirmed. And it's and before you know it, it's an oh yeah of Kool-Aid Spren.
I was making a reference to, I don't even remember the name of the religious group, but it was a
You
religious
don't?
group.
It's Heaven's
I don't remember.
Gate.
Thank you, Heaven's Gate.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
the Heaven's
You're
Gate
welcome.
cult that
Oh, thank heaven.
drank poison Kool-Aid because they believed that if they died via the Kool-Aid, their souls would go up and join the aliens in the comet that was passing nearby Earth. And I don't actually know at that point. Probably go into some sort of heaven realm. But
Fun fact, we don't actually know it didn't work.
well, yes, I'm aware of that. Actually, we don't know whether or not it worked, but you know.
Wait, Alex, a group of Kool-Aid Spren is actually oh no, an oh no of Spren. If you have three oh no's of Kool-Aid Spren, it's an oh yeah. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh yeah.
Ah, okay, yeah, I see it.
There you go, there you go. You guys remember those commercials?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
Wow. What else do we have? We have the Spren being tamed. I bet that's going to be
Oh
really
yes.
important.
Yes.
That was actually really interesting. The potential to
So I don't know if you remember this, Griff, but I feel like three, maybe four weeks ago, I was texting you guys, thinking about how like Navani and the sibling need to at some point in this book work out their differences on Spren. And for some reason, my mind kept going back to spoiler alert for the Cytoverse, the Skyward series, the like the slugs, the Doom slugs, and how like they kind of like trained the Doom slugs and like the Boom slugs and all the other variations, right? And I thought, well, what if they were able to do that and make it like an economy of sorts, right? With the Spren. So instead of feeding them treats or whatever, they're feeding fire, like, attention and like a warm spot or something, right? And they have the shifts, right? So you can make like a kind of economy and then thus like domesticate them like they did with the slugs. And it seems like we might be going that route here, which would be a great compromise for Navani and sibling.
Completely agree. You said that on September 27th at
Okay, so about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
at 10:17 a.m.
Wow.
Um,
You went digging into the text. I love it.
Oh, on a minor point,
yes.
Yeah.
it did actually answer my question about whether or not the sand would react to any kind of Spren presence, where they confirmed that it has to be an intelligence Spren.
Right.
It can't be a basic Spren. The which I'm glad they at least answered. It was nice to get that confirmation.
Wait, what? I thought your question was, could they use a light weaving to make the black sand look white or whatever?
That
Yeah.
was a separate question,
separate, okay.
which nobody ever
Okay.
addressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious about that because that's a really good loophole. Good thinking.
But my other question, I think actually during the episode was like, would it turn white under the presence of any Spren? Because that seems like a bad alarm system if it was. But they confirmed that it has to be an intelligence Spren that would to set it off. So, which is why Shallan's armor didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Which that was actually a really clever use of her freezing armor.
It was.
Yeah. Yeah. Locking up your enemy. As long as it's just one person, right? Like it's
Right.
Right, exactly. Which, to be fair, considering that the Light Weavers are supposed to kind of be, I think, a more clandestine Radiant Order, just based on their abilities, it makes sense that their armor would kind of have that effect because, yeah, it's a great restraint method.
So what if my theory's right and Shallan learns how to make the creation Spren that like form around someone, do illusions like a light weaving. So you could put it on an enemy, make them look like you, and then when they're attacked and they can't move, they just have to stand there and take it. When they're attacked by their own friend, you dispel the creation sprint armor at like the last second so that they get them. Very creative kill for a single person.
I mean,
God.
even if you can't do creation friend making an illusion, you could still probably use your light weaving powers to achieve the same effect.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking like if you wanted like to preserve your Stormlight, but
Yeah,
you
yeah,
totally
yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I think you could still tie it to the armor because I was actually going back and reading the earlier um Stormlight Archive books. And one of the things Shallan discovers is that if she ties an illusion to pattern, that it sustains itself,
Right.
or at least it takes
Right.
longer to fade. So I feel like it would probably be the same with the armor, where it would feed on the stormlight of the armor,
Oh.
probably.
Yeah.
That makes
I
sense.
can definitely see that. Is there anything to talk about with Navani's part?
I think it was a nice little like extra bits, like setting up future things where the dark eyes are becoming light eyes and the dark eyes
Mm-hmm.
are getting upset, or like they've been
I like
upset
that.
longer than the light eyes have, so suck it, Aladar.
That's
And
definitely a like a second arc thing. Yeah.
it is.
I will
Okay.
say it was kind of a nice nod to non-binary people with
It was.
the sibling talking to Rushu.
That's right.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming, but that was very inclusive of Sanderson. I'm interested to see if what Rushu takes away from her talk with sibling.
Yep. Perhaps Rushu is non-binary.
I think that's pretty much confirmed, yeah.
That was what it
Yeah,
was.
that's what I got
Yeah.
from that chapter.
Get into the next chapter.
I
Is there
think
anything
so.
else
I
you want
think
to talk about?
next chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be best.
Let's
Yeah.
go. Wahoo!
Wahoo!
Where's my
See you on the page flip side. Set up professional audio in audio settings. Did it put that notification because I sounded like Mario? Maybe. If somebody knows if Zoom does that, if you do the Wahoo for Mario and it's set up professional audio, whatever.
Wahoo!
Wahoo! Yee-hee!
Nope, Zoom's not racist.
Oh, you tried it. I understand now. I thought you were just doing it. Thank you. Thank you for testing the hypothesis. Here we go. Chapter 24. In the Dancing Ring. 26 years ago. Lost my place. Didn't even start and I lost my place.
Are you recording?
Yep.
Yes. Yep. Okay. Ooh.
You scared me there for a second. That would have been bad. Here we go. Chapter 24. In the Dancing Ring. 26 years ago. Szeth, son Neturo, found magic upon the wind, and so he danced with it. Strict, methodic motions at first, as per the moves he had memorized. He stepped and spun, dancing in a wide circle around the large boulder. Szeth was as the limbs of the oak, rigid but ready. When those shivered in the wind, Szeth thought he could hear their souls seeking to escape, to shed bark like shells and emerge with new skin, pained by the cool air, yet aflush with joy, painful and delightful, like all new things. Szeth's bare feet scraped across the packed earth as he danced, getting it on his toes, loving the feel of the soil. He went right to the edge, feet kissing the grass, then danced back, spinning to the accompaniment of his sister's flute. The music was his dance partner. Wind made animate through sound. The flute was the voice of air itself. Time became thick when he danced, molasses minutes and syrup seconds. Yet the wind wove among them, visiting each moment, lingering, then dashing away. He followed it, emulated it, became it. More and more fluid he became as he circled the stone. No more rigidity, no more pre-planned steps, sweat flying from his brow to seek the sky. He was the air, churning, spinning, violent. Around and around, his dance worship for the rock at the center of the bare ground, 5 feet across and 3 feet high, at least the part that emerged from the soil. It was the largest in the region. When he was wind, he felt he could touch that sacred stone, which had never known the hands of man. He imagined how it would feel, the stone of his family, the stone of his past, the stone to whom he gave his dance. He stopped finally, panting. His sister's music cut off, leaving his only applause the bleating of the sheep. Molly the ewe had wandered onto the circular dance track again, and, bless her, was trying to eat the sacred rock. She never had been the smartest of the flock. Szeth breathed deeply, sweat streaming from his face, wetting the packed earth below with speckles like stars. "You practice too hard," his sister, Elid, daughter Zenid, said. "Seriously, Szeth, can't you ever relax?" She stood up from the grass and stretched. Elid was 14, 3 years older than he was. Like him, she was on the shorter side, though she was squat where he was spindly. Trunk and branch, Dolk son Dolk called them, which was appropriate, even if both Dolks were idiots. She wore orange as her splash, the vivid piece of colorful clothing that marked them as people who added 1 article per person of whatever color they desired. In her case, a bright orange apron across a gray dress and vibrant white undergown. She spun her flute in her fingers, uncaring that she had broken her previous one doing exactly that. Szeth bowed his head and went to get some water from the clay trough. Their homestead was nearby, a sturdy building constructed of boards, held together with wooden pegs. No metal, of course. Szeth's father worked on the rooftop, plugging a hole. Normally he oversaw the other shepherds, visiting them to give them help. There was some kind of training involved, which Szeth didn't understand. What kind of training did shepherds need? You just had to listen to the sheep and follow them and keep them safe. Nerturo was between assignments, working on the house he and his brothers had built. In a field opposite the home, distant but visible, the majority of their sheep grazed. A few, like Molly, preferred to stay close. Szeth liked when they could use fields near their homestead, as he could be near the stone and dance for it. He dipped a wooden spoon into the trough and sipped rainwater, pure and clean. He peered through it to the clay bottom. He loved seeing things that couldn't be seen, like air and water. "Why do you practice so hard?" Elid said. "There's nobody here but a couple of the sheep." "Molly likes my dancing," Szeth said softly. "Molly is blind," Elid said. "She's licking the dirt." "Molly likes to try new experiences," he said, smiling and looking toward the old ewe. "Whatever," Elid said, flopping back on the grass to stare at the sky. "Wish there was more to do out here." "Dancing is something to do," he said. "The flute is something to do. We must learn to add so that—" She threw a dirt clod at him. He dodged easily, his feet light on the ground. He might be only 11, but some in the village whispered he was the best dancer among them. He didn't care about being the best. He only cared about doing it right. If he did it wrong, then he had to practice more. Elid didn't think that way. It bothered him how apathetic she had become about practicing as she grew older. She seemed like a different person these days. Szeth tied his splash back on, a red handkerchief he wore around his neck, and did a quick count of the sheep. Elid continued to stare at the sky. "Do you believe the stories they tell," she eventually said, "of the lands on the other side of the mountains?" "The lands of the Stonewalkers? Why wouldn't I? They just sound so outlandish." "Elid, listen to yourself. Of course stories of outlanders sound outlandish." "Lands where everyone walks on stones, though? What do? Hop from stone to stone, avoiding the soil? Avoiding the soil? Zeth glanced at their family stone. It peeked up from the earth like a spren's eyeball, staring unblinking at the sky, a vibrant red-orange, a splash for Roshar. I think, he said to Elid, that there must be a lot more rock out there. I think it's hard to walk without stepping on stone. That's why they get desensitized. Where do the plants grow, then? She asked. Everyone always talks about how the outside is full of dangerous plants that eat people. There must be soil. True. Maybe the terrible vines he'd heard of stretched out long, like the tentacles you might find on a shamble, or one of the beasts that lived in the tidal pools a short distance down the coast. I heard, Elid said, that people constantly kill each other out there, that nobody adds, they only subtract. Who makes the food then? He said. They must eat each other. Or maybe they're always starving? You know how the men on the ships are. He nervously looked toward the ocean, though it could be seen only on the sunniest days. Technically, his family was part of the farming town of Clearmount, which was at the very edge of a broad plain, excellent for grazing. This part of Shinovar wasn't crowded. It was a day or two between towns. He heard that in the north there were towns everywhere. The grassland bordered on the southeastern coast of Shinovar. Clearmount, and Zeth's family homestead, was in an honored location near the monastery of the Stonewards, which was up along the mountain ridge. In Zeth's estimation, this was the perfect place to live. You could see the mountains, yet also visit the ocean. You could walk for days across the vibrant green prairie, never seeing another person. During the early months of the year they grazed the animals here, near their homestead. In the mid-months, they would take the sheep up the slopes, seeking the untouched and overgrown grass there. He bent down next to old Molly, scratching at her ears as she rubbed her head against him. She might lick rocks and eat dirt, but she was always good for a hug. He loved her warmth, the scratchy wool on his cheek, the way she kept him company when the others wandered. She bleated softly when he finished hugging her. Zeth wiped the salty, dried sweat from his head. Maybe he shouldn't practice dancing so hard, but he knew he'd made a few missteps. Their father said that they were blessed as people who could add beneath the farmer's eyes. The perfect station, not required to toil in the field, not forced to kill and subtract, allowed to tend the sheep and develop their talents. Free time was the greatest blessing in the world. Maybe that was why the men of the oceans sought to kill them and steal their sheep. It must make them angry to see such a perfect place as this. Those terrible men, like any petulant child, destroyed what they could not have. Do you think, Elid whispered, that the servants of the monasteries will ever come out and fight for us? Use the swords during one of the raids? Elid, he said, standing, the shamans would never subtract. Mother says they practice with the blades. I'd like to see that. Hold one. Why practice except to... They will fight the Voidbringers when they arrive, Zeth snapped. That is the reason. He glanced toward the ocean. Don't speak of the swords. If the outsiders realize the treasures of the monasteries... Ha! She said. I'd like to see them try to raid a monastery. I saw an honor-bearer once. She could fly. She... Don't speak of it, he said. Not in the open. Elid rolled her eyes at him, still lying on the grass. What had she done with her flute? If father had to make yet another... She hated when he brought that up, so he forced himself to stay quiet. He pulled away from Molly and then looked down at the ground she'd been licking. To find another rock. Zeth recoiled, part shocked, part terrified. It was small, only a handspan wide. It peeked up from the earth, perhaps revealed by last night's rain. Zeth put his fingers to his lips, backing away. Had he stepped on it while dancing? It was in the packed earth of the dancing ring. What? What should he do? This was the first stone he'd ever seen emerge. The ones in other villages and fields, carefully marked off and properly revered, had been there for years. What's up with you? Elid said. He simply gestured. She, perhaps sensing his level of concern, rose and walked over. As soon as she saw it, she gasped. They shared a glance. I'll get father, Zeth said, and started running. The end of chapter 24. Ta-da! This was one of the
Interesting.
this was one of the preview chapters Sanderson had for Dragonsteel 2022, I think. Yeah, 2022. So that was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Sorry, I'm here.
We believe you. We have approximately 12 minutes before it's going to kick us out of Zoom again. Next week, it will not be like this. So let's go fast. We know that they
I
revealed.
don't think there's a whole lot to say about this chapter, apart
There's
from the
not.
fact that, we do see how critically they take stepping on stones.
They do very seriously. And honor bearers, obviously, that's honor blade person. It mentioned
Right.
it mentions his father goes and trains other shepherds, but why would they need training? Maybe, Zeth, it's because your father has an honor blade and you just don't know it. And he goes off and
Possible.
does things. Yeah.
I wonder if,
Yeah.
like, at some point, if Zeth uncovers something and he's like the scapegoat for the with the Shin.
Yeah.
Like, so they're the truthless ones, but they call him truthless and kind of like, the ghost gaslight him and manipulate him into thinking that he is that way, right? Kind of
That's what I'm thinking.
brainwash. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Could be.
But yeah, I mean, I think this was important backstory, but not really a whole lot new that we learned.
I agree. So let's talk about that epigraph.
yes.
It was simple. Would that men could always do the same. If I could enshrine one law in all further legal codes, it would be this. Let people leave if they wish. Which seems like it's going to be important coming up soon. Maybe that people would want to leave and they're not going to be able to. And that's sad.
Yeah, that'll be interesting because, I mean, jumping forward in the space age, we do definitely see that people can. So clearly there's a way, but it might have to be after the contest.
Yeah.
Did either of you read the theory that the read-alongers shared?
What was it?
No.
It's very interesting. It's pretty long, so I'm gonna direct you guys, everyone listening, go to Reactor Mag. At the bottom of it, they'll have the link to a Reddit theory. Very good. They're pretty much saying that they believe Nohadon and Tanavast switched places, which would explain both of their mood shifts that have been recorded throughout the series. And if it lines up with this theory, then at the same time they kind of like went from very stoic to very like appreciative of life, and how the Storm and Stormfather kind of changed a little bit as well. It explains a lot of it. I'm not gonna lie, I really like it. So bold new theory
Huh.
that I enjoy. Got
That's an
my
interesting one.
tin foil hat or aluminum foil hat on today. I'm looking for these
Yeah.
theories, man.
Huh.
Huh.
That's a
Give
good
that one a read. So it's not too long. It's just too long for them to put it in their article.
Got it.
Yeah,
that
look
one's,
into
that
it.
one's very interesting. Yeah. And if it goes with our theory that it might be Nohadon in these epigraphs speaking, that's kind of like more hold the fire on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see
Yeah.
that. What do we got for the arches?
Arches, the first one I think was two. It is Paula, and patron of the Truth Watchers, and Shalash or Ash, patron of the Light Weavers.
Well,
The
that's
read
simple.
alonger here says that seems to me that Paula is here for Navani and her Ardents in their
Right.
attempts to work with Fabrials and to get the situation in the tower under control. Shalash could be here for Shallan and her efforts to infiltrate the Ghost Bloods, especially since Shallan's having to get quite creative to work around the security the Ghost Bloods have in place.
Yes.
Yeah,
Makes
I
sense.
agree with that. Yeah. You have the scientist, kind of the truth watcher scholar um, side, and then you have the light weavers. So works with me. Second one for Zep's flashback is 4 slots of Ishar.
Okay.
Which I mean, if he has a presence in uh Cinnabar, makes sense. But
Yeah.
the read alonger here also says his attributes are pious and guiding. His role is
Mm,
priest. I think there are mentions of priest or something of that nature for the Shinovar. Um, forget what they were called, but he says that his best guess is that it's relating to the pious attribute, as we both see Zeph and his sister holding very true to their beliefs regarding the stone.
okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. Some other theories that they share at the bottom here, both pretty cool. First one by Azrael Azari on Reddit. Am I the only one convinced Kaladin can't be the one to take up Honor's shard because he doesn't have a relationship with Teravangian? I don't know if I agree with that there because isn't he called like Son of Teravangian at some point or Son of Tanavas? Oh wait,
That's kind of
I got them
Tenebeth.
mixed up. Yeah. Um, I don't know. I don't know if those are like if that excludes him, but I see what they're saying.
Yeah.
She goes on to say, I think it will be either be Dalinar, where we will get a round two of their philosophical argument on the actions a king should take, but as gods. Definitely agree with that. Or it will be Zeph, and it will play on the wording of his fifth ideal, the Skybreakers, where you become the law. And as you know, Alex, I really like that theory, but we can talk about that in the our post When in Truth
Yeah.
video, as we gotta wait and see what happens with Zeph here. But
That's exciting.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think he's gonna
Yeah,
descend. I've said it enough times, but I think he's gonna descend and not say I am the law, but I am justice, because that's kind of his arc, and that's kind of like more of a what a Skybreaker should be. But
I agree.
I mean, they're supposed to be the police, not the judges, and they're kind of
Right.
like Nail's kind of like judge, jury, executioner. So that's not what the law is
yeah, that
about.
is definitely what he's playing.
He's definitely
Yeah.
twisted. Yeah.
Mhm.
Very cool.
Any thoughts on that one? Got one more after that.
Go for it.
You guys are good. All right. Last one here. Another Reddit comment. Um, oh, it's just a joke, I guess. Random observation, but thank God Gavilar is dead because he would have hauled his ass to the spiritual realm so fast if he knew Honor Shard was up for grabs. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, he would
How
have.
would, yeah, I mean, how would he have gone there though? If you needed like a bondsmith to get there?
He would have gone to the Horneater Peaks and gone through the
Oh,
perpendicularity.
yeah. True.
He would have figured it out. He would have figured it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he knew godhood was up for grabs, yeah, he would have figured out a way.
Yeah.
Mhm. He's like, no, I'm your boss, Stormfather. It's funny.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Okay. Any other thoughts before we wrap up?
Don't think so.
Was favorite moments, real quick.
Mine was honestly the learning about the Fabrials, like the compromises they're making with the siblings.
Yeah. What about you, Trevor?
Yeah, I think that since Griff said that one, I'll say Talon locking a guard with her armor spren. Very creative, like that.
I really liked the description and prose of Zeth's dance. I thought that really
Mm,
came alive for me. So good job, Sanderson. That was
Indeed.
that was
yeah,
inspired. So okay,
definitely.
Griff, take us out.
All right, until next time, don't panic, world hoppers.
Life before death, strength before weakness.
Oh yeah. Before destination.
Perfect.
Brilliant.
Nice.